What's up everyone, Clark Glassford, founder of My Practice Interview, where I help you land your dream job. And today we're talking about phone interviews. You've applied for a job, you've sent in your resume, you've been waiting for that interview, and you get a call, email, text, whatever, saying we'd like to invite you for a phone interview. Oh, that's not so bad. I don't have to go and meet somebody in person. I'll just take the dog for a walk, get on my phone, have a latte, have a casual conversation, and I will get invited to an interview. Wrong approach to handling a phone interview. A phone interview is an interview, and today's video is all about how you prepare for that phone interview. I've got some great tips with, you'll love this, some sample questions that you can practice for your actual phone interview so you can rock it, so you can get the invite to the actual interview to get the job that you want. So before we go any further, let's get going here. I'm ready, you ready? Let's go. So today we're here talking about phone interviews and how you prepare for those phone interviews. And let's just start with why companies even bother going through a phone interview process. Well, typically it's just to get a quick snapshot of who you are as an applicant to help filter down all the applicants that have applied for that role. So as an employer, I may have 10 people that I'm considering for that role. I don't want to interview 10 people in person, so I'm going to have a quick phone interview to learn a little bit about that applicant pool that I have so that I can filter that down and bring in maybe 3, 4, or 5 people for that actual interview. So really important that when you get a call for a phone interview, you are thinking in terms of it being an actual interview and preparing in a way that is going to help set you apart from all of your competition so you can sail through that and get the actual interview in person. So how do you do that? Well, first things first, you need to prepare. And how do you prepare? Start by researching the company. Make sure you've researched the organization, website, social media, news articles. Make sure you're familiar with the company. Make sure you're familiar with the role. LinkedIn is another place you can look to gain valuable insight into the organization. The last thing an employer wants to hear on a phone interview is you don't actually know much about the job you've applied for. You don't actually know much about the organization. So make sure you start by doing your research. The next thing is prepare and practice. You are going to be asked questions. It won't be as formal as an in-person type interview, but you're going to be asked questions. So make sure you are prepared to answer common phone interview questions. Well, hey Clark, where do I get common phone interview questions from? Well, I've saved your butt yet again in the description below. We have 15 questions that are commonly asked in phone interviews. That gives you great insight and a great number of questions to start your preparation, to start your practice for that phone interview. So make sure you check out those questions. They will set you apart from your competition and really help you rock your preparation. And then in terms of all that preparation, you need to determine that you're actually a match for this role. So look at that job description, look at that job posting, and make a checklist. Literally, have what the job's asking for, and right across from that, show on a piece of paper for yourself how you actually match that position. Because what's the employer going to ask? They're going to ask a question, why did you apply for this role and why you? So you need to be able to define your why. Again, why did you apply for the role, and what specific skills you bring to this role that match the job you've just applied for. So create a checklist, have that on hand so you're ready to answer that question when it comes in the interview. Now, when it comes to phone etiquette, really important. Yes, you're not in person, you're not able to make eye contact, you're not able to show body movement, things like that, that your ability to kind of express that enthusiasm in person, but they want to hear that through the phone. So when the phone rings, make sure you're not going, yeah, huh, what, who, this? You're not doing any of that. You're picking up the phone at the time that they've set up for that phone interview, and you're saying, hello, my name is Doug Smith. Hello, my name is Jane Doe. Whoever you are saying your name, you're introducing yourself. When the interviewer gets into asking questions and kind of setting the stage for that phone interview, you're not interrupting, you're not interjecting, you're following their lead. So after you've done some introductions, Let them lead the interview. Don't you jump in with a bunch of questions and start trying to, impart your wisdom on why you're perfect for the role. Let them ask the questions, follow their lead, follow that process. Make sure you listen to the questions. Really key that you take a few moments once a question's been asked, that you're listening to those questions, you've given it some thought, and you can actually prepare a solid answer. And then also make sure you have a resume on hand that you can reference in that interview, because you're on the phone. They can't actually see materials you have around you. So again, make sure your phone etiquette is solid. Make sure you follow their lead. Make sure you have information around you, such as your resume, that you can reference so you can help answer the question. Now, do's. Here's what I want you to do in a phone interview. Make sure you have a checklist. Simple. We talked about that before. Your own checklist in front of you that clearly shows how you meet the qualifications of the role you're asking for. Again, they're going to ask you questions to make that determination as to whether they want to meet you in person or not. So make sure it's really clear that when you're answering that, you can quickly itemize exactly what you have as it relates to the role. I've talked about having your resume on hand. Again, that document, they could ask questions, walk me through your resume. You want to make sure that's there, and you're going, I don't actually have my resume in front of me. Have that resume there that you can actually walk them through your resume and relate the specific skills to the job you're applying for. Make sure you have notes on hand and you take notes. So what do I mean by that? Well, again, you're on a phone call, so you may have some things that you really want to make sure you say in that phone interview. Go ahead, take some notes in advance so you can quickly reference those when on the phone so you don't forget them. Also, the person conducting the interview may have some things that they're saying that you want to make note of, like, oh yeah, right, I want to make sure I ask about this at the end of the interview. Feel free to take notes throughout. So have the paper on hand that where you have some notes, you take some notes, and you're very well prepared in that regard. Make sure you have interview questions ready to ask at the end of your interview. Such an important piece. Any interview, whether it's in person or on the phone, that interviewer asks you, do you have any questions for us? Make sure you have some prepared questions you can ask, whether it's next steps in the process, questions about the position, questions about the organization. All of that looks really good on you if you have questions that are prepared to ask in that role. Set you apart from your applicants, because a lot of them will say, no, I'm good, I don't have anything I need to ask. You have something to ask. It shows your interest, shows your enthusiasm. Make your answers short. So phone interviews, it's not the long in-person type interview. Typically they're 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes max. So keep your answers succinct, kind of in that 2, maybe even 3 minute range at the most. And if the interviewer wants more information, they will ask at that time. Again, they're trying to make a quick decision as to whether they want to meet you in person or not. Last thing here, think before you answer. Such an important part of responding to interview questions. People like to jump in. They like to hear a question, then just jump in with an answer. Take a moment. That could be a couple seconds, could be 10 seconds, to take a moment to think about how you want to respond to that interview question. It will help you frame your response and help you give a powerful response versus something that's rushed and not well thought out. Lastly, enthusiasm is absolutely key when responding in an interview. Now, they can't see you, so they can't see body language, they can't see you smiling, they can't see your eyes wide and bright, they can't see your hand movement and that you are really excited, but you can do that with enthusiasm, and you can do that by enunciating properly in that interview. And how'd you go about demonstrating enthusiasm for the interview? How'd you be ready for that? Practice. Practice, 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 practice in advance. So before you get on that phone interview, I gave you 15 questions, again, in the description below, that you can practice. You are practicing those, whether you practice those out loud in front of a mirror, have someone read them to you and you respond back, or set up a Zoom meeting for one and record yourself practicing those answers. You will pick up on things like tone, inflection, body language, and just overall enthusiasm. Those are things you want to look for, because on the phone, they can't see you, but they can hear you and they want to hear that enthusiasm in your voice. So really, really important that you practice enthusiasm before you get to that phone interview. Now, don't. Okay, things like don't chew gum, don't eat. Don't do things like that in the interview where the interviewer can hear on the other end of the phone chewing gum, smacking your lips, or eating food. Don't. I know this is so common to most of you out there, but it does happen, and it's super annoying to the interviewer, and a good chance it will set them off and you will not be brought in for an interview. Don't interrupt the interviewer. That's another one. Make sure you let them speak. Again, take the lead from them, listen to what they're saying, and then respond to their questions. And then make sure the last one here is you are on time. The interview's been set for a certain time. You need to be there on time. You need to answer that phone on first ring. Make sure you're not late. So those are some great key tips for helping you prepare for your phone interview that will allow you to get to the next stage of that recruitment process, which is the in-person interview. I have tons of material on in-person interviews. Check out the playlist here, which gives you lots of videos to watch in terms of preparing for that in-person interview. I hope you've enjoyed these tips today on preparing for a phone interview. Make sure you like, subscribe, tell your friends about this channel, and until next time, we'll see you then. Keep rocking those interviews.